be muted. And we have about 12 people in our session. So thank you all for joining us, and have a great session with Ms. Boyd. I'm going to go ahead and stop presenting here, okay?
Thank you, and I'll switch over if you guys will just give me a second. So thank you guys so much for joining me here. Welcome to the best journey ever that you are going to partake in. Like everybody has said, my name is Dana Boyd. I am, like she said, the principal now of Parkland Elementary, proud principal of Parkland Elementary, effective today, representing the black and yellow. Yeah, black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow. That's my new theme song. So representing, yes, so I am glad to be here. What I have here is congratulations on making the best instructional transformation for your school. As Rebecca said, last year at East Point Elementary was my first year of blended learning. Actually, I was a blended learning stalker for about 2 years before we actually became blended learning. I went to a lot of the visits, started trying to take some of my teachers to be able to get their feet wet. And then we finally applied, and it was an amazing year, a transformation of a campus that first started with a few, and then everybody jumped on board, I believe, except 3 teachers voluntarily jumped on board to be blended learning teachers. So I want to say to you all, congratulations. You will see that your school will transform to a school like no other school unless they are blended learning. It's going to make a difference in every part of your school. All right. So I actually don't have a lot of slides for you all because I kept it simple as a first year blended learning principal as a campus. So I'm going to just go through some tips for my first year, and then questions. I'm actually going to ask if we can wait till the end for the questions, and Rebecca will chime in on those because I want to give enough time to be able to give you guys questions. So my tips for a successful first year was pick 1 to 2 pillars to begin with. So you all are going to be exposed to the blended learning pillars. And I say there's no way in heck that you can go through all of the pillars. We began with pillar 1 and 4, and I will go over that a little bit in a few more slides, but choose 1 to 2 pillars that you feel are going to make the biggest difference in your campus. You know your campus better than anybody. Where are the ones that you want to dig deep in? We started with DDI and also the campus culture. Those are the ones that we delve into, and I'll talk to you about those. Then we mapped out a timeline for those pillars. Some pillars will take more than a year for implementation. So when you all look at the pillars, you'll see that there's different bullets. So we mapped out our timeline for each pillar to be able to say, okay, by mid-year, this is where we should be. This is where our classroom should be, mapping it out and holding ourselves and our leadership team accountable for that. And then also letting the teachers know, this is the timeline, this is the non-negotiables. These are what they said, kind of like soft, like these are kind of negotiable. And then these are the things that we're gonna like keep rock solid, that these are the non-negotiables, like we have like the student data folders. Those we knew we could be kind of soft with those, but we were non-negotiable about everybody's gonna have student data binders, folders, whatever it is. That's the non-negotiable that we had. All right. One of the most important things is you need to invest in your teachers. And that doesn't mean money, but most importantly is time. They need regular, consistent time to plan. Every month, I gave each grade level a whole day to be able to have planning time. Now we've got the COVID schedule, this, that, or the other, and you say, okay, well, Fridays are already there for them. They have Fridays. Fridays might not be enough time for them because you all are going to have, we all are going to have the other planning times. But if you're going to give them the Friday, if you're going to use the Friday, then you need to make sure that that Friday is for blended learning and nothing else. And with that Friday, myself, my coaches, we were in the planning with them the entire time. It wasn't anything that you just say, okay, my coaches or my ITS are responsible for this. We were all, as the leadership team, were a part of that, and we were in there the whole time. Allow them to attend all blending visits to get different ideas, and I really want to encourage middle school to send your teachers to elementary. And the reason that I say that is because that's where the foundation is being built to be able to send to you to the middle school. So you are going to see great implementation models in the elementary that you can take to another level at the middle school. So I really encourage not just to be able to go to one of the site visits, but allow your teachers to be able to go to many of the site visits, because every school's implementation of blended learning is different. And some people are at different levels, and you will be at different levels. So I encourage you to allow your teachers to go to all of the site visits to be able, or at least to be able to visit 2 different campuses. Allow them to conduct instructional rounds on campus with other blended teachers and then to other blended classrooms. So we kind of did a 2-for-1. The district had their instructional rounds that we all have to do. So we did 2-for-1. So we did our campus visits. Shelly or Rebecca will come and meet with you every month, and you got to stick to it. You can't say, I'm sorry, I can't make that meeting. Like, it is a commitment to be a blended learning campus. So we just did 2-for-1. So we did our instructional rounds, but our focus was really our pillars. And then we use the district's, whatever the district was implementing, if it was reading, if it was data, whatever, and we combined all of that into whatever our focus was for blended. So we had the teachers went with us on the instructional rounds, and then teachers got to be the ones that were walking with the other classes, but then we got to flip-flop. So teachers got to see each other. So teachers were able to see how everybody else was doing in the classroom, which is a great experience, but you also know that teachers are very competitive. So what they saw from others, even within their own grade level, they were like, oh my God, I got to bring it. Like, I'm not bringing it like my other colleagues are doing it. So it's a great experience for learning for all of the teachers. And then purchase materials to support the transformation. I told all of my teachers, those of you all that become blended learning teachers, I'll get personal laminators for each one of you all, and I'll give you the one box of the laminating sheets. The reason for that is because they need them for the personalized learning stations and menus. So that was my commitment to give back to them, is everyone who committed got the personalized laminators. And the accountability is the most important. You got to stick with your non-negotiables, your walkthroughs. You've got to give them the glows and grows on the blended learning expectations. And the student ambassador roles. The student ambassadors, you've got to model what it is that you want those student ambassadors to say, to do, and it was a non-negotiable. If I went into a class and a child didn't approach me or an adult as a student ambassador, I would stop and say, who's the student ambassador? Who's in here? So we had to do a lot of modeling to be able to create the student ambassadors. And that was where that accountability came in, because the students are the facilitators of the classroom. And if the students don't know what's going on in the classroom, then that's still a very teacher-led classroom. So that's why our student ambassadors was one of our first things that we were like, we are going to embed the student ambassadors, all right? So you will see on here, wow, what the heck is going on? Sorry, what the heck? All right, so what I have on here is, you guys will see this is a copy of pillar number 4, and it's teeny tiny, I'm sorry, but you will see that it has on here beginning, practicing, developing, and distinguished. These are the levels of implementation with the indicators. So what we had our teachers, so this is pillar 4, campus and classroom culture. This was the big one for our campus that we said this had to be embedded by the first semester. If you all see on the left, it starts with really like rituals and routines are in place. Students enter the the classroom to sit and wait for directions. Teacher pauses the class. Rituals and routines are in place. Classroom setup makes it hard for students. All of the rituals and routines, we looked at these things and said, okay, these things have to be in place by the second semester. So when students enter the classroom, they need to know what it is that they're doing. Our students shouldn't be walking in class trying to figure out what it is that they need to do. Like pencils need to be sharpened. Like there needs to be rituals and routine in place for, or posters or anchor charts to say, what do we do if your pencil is not sharpened? So all of these rituals and routines that you see in here on the left side, you want the teachers to start transforming to the developing and distinguish. So you'll see how those shift, because you all know that lots of classroom time is wasted on, okay, get out your notebooks. Okay, this, that, or the other. Or teacher, my laptop isn't working, this, that, or the other. So you have to set up those rituals and routines in place, in order, in regards to be able to have that time, but the students know exactly what needs to be done. So this was the one that was like our big one, was classroom and campus culture, setting those routines. And then even with the walkthroughs, the first 9 weeks was about rituals and routines. Do the kids know what to do? Not the teacher saying, okay, we just finished our readers workshop, now it's time for us to transform. No, when the timer goes off, the kids are going to get up. They know it's time to transform to the next thing. So those, like I said, and it's a lot of modeling and setting those expectations, and especially with the technology too. What is those expectations? So in elementary, we had lots of anchor charts. For those of you in middle school, it could be a slip of something that they're going to have that's going to be in their folders when the teacher is in a group. When your computer locks up, these are the people that are going to be the experts in the class. It's giving those student roles. Someone answers the phone, someone does this, someone does that. So like I said, it's shifting from a teacher-centered, directed classroom to a student-facilitated classroom. All right. So the other pillar that we chose was the data-driven instruction, because as you have heard all morning, data drives where our students will go. So this was the one that we actually had for a year, and we're actually going to continue that this year, because we were in the beginning and practicing and just moving over to the developing, and some teachers did move over to the distinguished. So its student data profile includes previous year's performance. Teachers may not consistently share formative and summative assessment. Little to no evidence of data to inform instruction or decision making. So you're seeing all of those things that are in the beginning are all of the things that you're trying to get your teachers to move to. So it's like every decision that is made in planning is used with data. So your data drives any type of planning or instruction. Teachers may not consistently share formative and summative assessment. So Catlin talked about when they're grading their tests, they're grading them there with the students, okay? It's automatic feedback. For iStation data, the teachers had data that they were sitting with the students and going over their iStation data, and then having goal setting conferences with them right there within that week that the students got that data in that first week and each month. Then those data conferences were going on. With math, the same thing. Those had to be repetitive, embedded conferences that were happening. Little to no evidence of data to inform instructional decision making. So that also goes with data in the classroom. Teachers had data on their walls, big data posters, so students can see where they were, where they needed to go, where other students were, but they also had their data folders to be able to talk about their data. And it wasn't something that they just colored in and it was put away. The expectation was whatever went in that folder, one, was going to be up to date, and two, the students had goals that they set for it, and they were able to explain the why of what that goal is and the how of what it is how are they going to get to be able to achieve that goal. Okay. All right. So you'll see when you're going to that developing and distinguished phase, you'll see how it begins to transform into when giving instructions, including activities, facilitating small groups, the teacher provides a rationale for her decision using evidence from data. So we started to see our teachers having the conversation. All right, guys, we're going to be looking at da-da-da-da-da-da because the data of our class was da-da-da-da-da-da. So it's giving purpose. In the PLCs, teachers regularly analyze academic and non-academic data. So our instructional coaches were talking about data. Every time that we met with PLC, there was a data piece in there. And then also when we have RTI or when we talk about anything else that's going on, discipline referrals, we're talking about that non-academic data. And that's something that we needed to do better, that we focused so much on academic data that we really didn't focus as much as we should on the non-academic social behaviors. So that was something that we needed to work on better. Okay. All right, so some samples of successful practices. So I want to be able to show you all. Let me just stop presenting on here. Just give me a quick, and I want to show you some pieces of data, or actually some samples that my teacher shared. So you guys can kind of get a picture, because I'm a very visual person. So this one right here is actually what some of our reading menus look like. So you'll see on here that there's tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. So you'll see that there's must do and can do. So students have the must do items that they had to do, which was a TEK assignment, which was based on data. So these are the things that students had to do based on data, response to text, and then an iStation for 30 minutes a week. And then after they're able, and this would be like a playlist, then after they're able to do those must-dos, then they can go to these can-dos. For these are our tier 1 students. So these are some can-dos that you're still building that content, but these are some can-dos after they do their must-dos. So you'll see on tier 2, they also have TEK assignments. Their iStation is now going to be 60 minutes a week. So they're broken up into 20-minute sessions for them. And then they also too get to, once they finish their must-dos, they also have the choice to be able to do some of the can-dos that they have. And whatever order the kids want to do the must-dos, it doesn't have to be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or whatever. They have the choice of where they want. And then tier 3, you see that they have some must-dos also. Their can-dos are going to be a little bit less, but we want to be able to give them, like, you guys can still have some freedom to be able to do some can-dos too, but based on their tier 3 status, they also have some things that they have to be able to do. And then they have iStation 90 minutes a week that they have it broken into 15 minutes, and they still have some items that they have to do. And the same thing would go for math menus. They have tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 stations of must-dos that they also have to do. All right. Let me show you another folder just to give you guys a kind of like a visual of to be able to see. And of course, this baby is not wanting to go backwards. Let's go right here. I think it stopped sharing on my screen, but I'm going to make sure that I get it back up there for you guys, because this is some really good stuff that I want to share with you. All right, so let me show you here. Are you there? Rebecca, you guys can see it, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
we're here and it's showing that you're presenting. I just need to set mine to see it. Yeah.
So here are some other different things of some menus that are on here. So I'm just gonna, this is another menu of a visual of some menus that a teacher also made with some must-dos and some can-dos on there. So you guys can see that different teachers created their own must-dos and can-dos that they can have on there. What I also wanted to show you is, because data, so we said that we were DDI. So there's some data folder pages. So you all are able to see how they had tracking data. So I can go like 5th grade unit tests, how they tracked theirs by SEs. So all of the students were given the SEs that they are having to do. So they would have their math tested SEs, and then the students would highlight how they did on the particular SEs on unit tests. If these particular SEs, these are the readiness standards. So students would be able to tell you how they did on these particular SEs, and if they mastered it or if they did not master it. Then these would then become stations in their math menus of things that they had to be able to go back and be able to work on. Okay, so those are kind of just some, just a few of some of the areas that they shared with us. Let me go back to my presentation here, because the last part that I have here really is open for questions for you guys. It's really questions. I wanted to be able to give a good chunk of the time to questions for you all, because I know how important it was for me in that first year. You hear all of these things, and then I really never had the chance to be able to have enough time to be able to have questions. So that's why I want to give you guys the opportunity now to be able to ask any questions that you have, be it the chat box or you just want to come on your mic. This is your time to be able to ask any questions, or if there's anything else that you want me to show you. We've got it's till 11:05, right, Rebecca?
Yes, ma'am. We have
Okay,
plenty of
so
questions.
yes, so we have time for that. So anybody, I'm opening the mic to anybody at this time.
I was just gonna mention that I know that you carefully selected the pillars that your school was going to use. Was there another pillar that you kind of were like, maybe I should, maybe this one, but maybe not?
Yeah, the student agency is the one that we would have picked up for year 2. Student agency. There's 4 pillars. Someone just asked, or is there 5 pillars? There's 4?
4
pillars. 4, yes, 4 pillars. And student agency is the one that we would have picked up, but we kind of blended. Student agency was happening, but really, if you don't have those rituals and routines down, that pillar number 4, like I told you all, it just won't work because so much time is wasted. So I would really, really, highly recommend that you all focus and really look at that pillar number 4, which I had put on there, because there's so many things that you guys as administrators or leadership team members know, that you see that the teacher directs so many things, giving the piece of paper, passing the pieces of paper out. And it's just so teacher directed, where students need to be able to take that ownership. And that goes with online learning too. Those are some things. So the document Shelley sent you has 5 pillars.
Well, here's a document that you can look at. And actually, if you Google blended learning pillars, it's rigor is the last one. It's data-driven instruction, student agency, flexible instructional grouping, competency-based learning, and rigor.
Okay, all right. So I guess that I'm not considering rigor as a pillar, to be honest with you all, because the rigor comes within all of the other pillars. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but you have to have rigor when you are looking at those the student menus, when you're looking at the rigor that's taking place with the questioning that is happening, the questioning that your teachers are asking, the rigor that your PLC coaches are asking. I guess that's why I just kind of embedded rigor into everything else. So my apologies about that. Connie, you mentioned that you provided teachers the opportunity to become blended learning teachers. What were the pros and the pitfalls as teacher made their decisions? So the pros, Connie, I would say of being a blended learning teacher was that every student was individualized, to be honest with you, that it was not a one size fits all. And I also would say a pro was every teacher knew every student. Because of the data, every teacher had to know every student. And the pros also was just that students started to take over the classroom. The pitfalls, one of the pitfalls that I don't even know if I could say that there were pitfalls, because we learned from other blended campuses with talking to David Medina, with talking to Norma Osuna about slowing down and not doing it too much too fast. I think that was a way for us to avoid the pitfalls, that we went slow, and everybody was at their own pace. And then more people began to come on once they saw that it wasn't so bad. So you're asking me, I don't know, Maggie was my coach for half of the year. Adriana Arenas was a counselor. I don't know that I can say that there were pitfalls, because as visitors came, as students and as parents, parents are saying that students were coming back talking about their work, that they've never talked about their work before. We only had positives. So I don't know that I could say that there were pitfalls. I think the pitfalls really would be trying to plan for all of those substitutes when you had the planning day. That was probably the hardest thing, because we would have like kinder, first and second grade teachers out at one time. So that was a pitfall. But because we established the rituals and routines, we didn't have a problem with classroom behavior when we had 15 teachers out, because the students owned the classroom. So you didn't have to leave substitute plans anymore, because the students knew how to run the classroom. So there were no more substitute plans other than this time they go to PE, this time they go to lunch, because the students knew what was supposed to be taught. Okay. How does it affect PLC planning when you have 3 teachers doing blended and 2 not doing blended? So Angela, that's actually a really, really good question. And the way that worked was everybody still got training as if they were blended learning teachers. And we didn't divide you're blended and you're not blended, because we are a blended learning campus. So even if they weren't a blended learning teacher, they still went to the blended learning planning, because this was the direction that our campus was going to go. So there was no, we're going to plan for blended and not blended. Everybody still got the same planning. And that's how we got actually more people to come on board, is because they saw it wasn't more work. It was actually better for students and for the teachers. All right. All right. And Maggie said, trying to do too much. Yes. Or teachers trying to do too much too soon. Yes. And that you have to, like, as administrators say, pump your brakes, especially when they go to the visits and they see that there's, like, you can go to Pebble Hills or you go to Paso Del and they're like on fire and they're like, oh my God, I have to come back and have to transform everything. And it's like, no, we're going to stay in our lane. We're going to stay in our lane. And you as an administrator have to stay in your lane. Like, you're going to go to these other campuses and see all of these wonderful things. And you got to stay in your lane. And you've got to say, we're barely year 1 and we're going to do what we're doing and we're going to do it good. Because if you go and try to do too much too fast, you're going to burn them out and they're not going to be committed to it. So those were one of the things that I want to say. Stay in your lane and commit to whatever it is that you all are going to plan this afternoon. Don't dwell away from that, because then the teachers are going to see it as another program rather than this is a lifestyle. This is what's best for kids. It's not a program. Blended learning is not a program. Okay. What were your expenses for year 1? Furniture. Okay, so blended learning is not about furniture, Angela. You could have blended learning with the ugliest of furniture. So it has nothing to do with furniture. It has nothing to do with technology really either. Those are all kind of misconceptions. My biggest expense, like I told you, were the individual laminating machines, and then paying for substitutes. But Connie helped me out on paying for the substitutes. With COVID that we have, Angela, to be honest with you, it's going to be, how are you going to plan for those planning days for teachers? Because your teachers need to have the time to plan. If you don't give them time to plan, it's not going to be done. And your coaches must be in there with them. And your coaches also need to be in the meetings that Rebecca and Shelly come to every month. It can't just be the principal in there. It has to be the librarian. I had my librarian, my coaches in there with me, my assistant principals. Everybody has to be talking the same language. You cannot just assign blended learning to one person on your leadership team. Everybody has to be talking the same language. It has to be committed, because if your leadership team is not committed and getting the training or talking the language, then the teachers are not going to believe in it. So we tiered professional development. We no longer had one size fits all professional development. Just like you tier your kids based on data, we tiered our professional development. So some teachers are master teachers and they don't need to sit in PDs that we make everybody sit in. So we tiered our professional development based on teacher needs and teacher data. So that's where they started to where we started transforming our own practices that we would do as administrators. And then teachers started really like saying thank you. So if they didn't have to go to a PD, then they had that time to go plan in their classroom. Can IT support also? Well, they should be in there, Mr. Sedano. IT should be a part and are a part of this team. So you definitely should be a part of the team. Anybody else? Was there particular information that you shared with parents as you transitioned into blended learning? Connie, I believe there wasn't like we are a blended learning campus. I think it just started to happen through transformation of the conversations that started happening with students and parents and teachers going back. I think that's why our campus was able to transform to the online learning so well, because those relationships had been established already with parents and students knowing their data and teachers knowing that. I think that it just kind of was fluid and it happened. But we would tell them, like, we are a blended learning campus and this is what that means, because parents don't know what that means. So I think it was just education that teachers would let them know. And then, of course, when we had our student-led conferences, which are like APTT conferences, the parents saw it wasn't those traditional come get your report card and sit and listen. The students were leading those conferences with their data and talking about what's going on in the classroom, rather than the boring parent-teacher conferences that have been traditionally happening.
Dana, this is Angela.
Good morning. Yes. Good morning.
I just wanted to share with the others that, because we're a middle school, and this past year we did, we piloted the student-led conferences for the first time, because that's what we used to do when I was an elementary teacher, and I loved it as a parent. So we rolled it out, and I got so much positive feedback from the parents. They were like, thank you so much. We don't have to wait in the halls, one by one, because we have 1,400 kids, so it's crazy. But they really liked that the kids were telling them what they were learning. And so I know there was a lot of hesitation, because they're like, it's middle school, like the kids aren't going to want to present, but they went very well. And I mean, I got so many emails the next day from parents. So I just wanted to let you know that I'm really happy that we piloted that last year, because I think going forward with this, it's going to look so much better. So we're excited. I mean, we're excited to see everything that you presented to us, and I'm excited that now you're feeding your kiddos to us, because our kids need that foundation. So thank you very much. This is really helpful for us.
No problem. One of the other things that I want to do just really good as a blended learning is make sure that every child has a voice. and the teachers need to know that every child's voice is important. So just looking at my screen, I'm noticing that Mrs. Carvajal, Ms. Escobar, and Ms. Gonzalez and Ms. Ramos have not had any insight. And it's important, as student input is important, right? Because as a teacher, you need to be able to recognize all of your students. So I'm gonna ask each one of you all to chime in with a question or a reflection that you have. We have, you know, about 10 minutes. So that's also important for me. So ladies.
Everyone participates.
Yes, everyone participates. And as a teacher, you need to know that everybody, those that are not, right? So you have to be able to know your students. So Ms. Carvajal, can you give me a reflection or anything that you're wondering right now?
Good morning, everybody. Yes, actually, I was thinking as we are beginning this uncertain time and perhaps a new school year, I was wondering how you are going to get to your pillar 4, which is your campus, classroom, and culture, knowing that you're moving into a new school. Some of us are moving into our first year. How will you begin to establish those rituals and routines, perhaps when you are starting the year online completely?
Right, right. So I believe it's the same as if you would be at school, right? You establish those rituals and routines for an online community. This is what we do when we're online. Everybody puts their mics on mute. You know, you establish some of those protocols with a raising the hand. So it's just as simple as that. When somebody else is talking, these are some of the rituals and routines that we have to be able to build relationships with each other, scavenger hunts, this, you know, whatever it is that you would establish as if the students were coming into the classroom, those same rituals and routines that you would do or rules that you would do in your classroom is the same thing that you would do to be able to support them online also. And with the parents also, it's just about building the relationships, knowing your data, the teachers following through on the data when they're talking to the students. Hey, I noticed that on your assignment, just like Ms. Tucker talked about today, and having that conversation with the kids. So that's one of the things that I would say. Yes.
We have something from the chat.
Ramos?
On the chat,
I'm excited about learning and want to know how I can assist as a testing coordinator. Ooh, that's a good question. I can maybe like let the experts figure that one out. Ooh, I don't know about that one. That's a good one. Maybe, good Lord, I'm gonna have to think about this one.
You know, I always find that it's important, as you know your role best, and you just need to be an observer and see where can I fit myself in. I mean, that's my advice.
Okay. And you know what, Ms. Ramos, even as a testing coordinator, that's when you're going to come in with your leadership team. I mean, data is valid data, right? Even if yours is more like, from my understanding, testing coordinator is just getting all of that stuff together. But it's also important for you to know the data to be able to help support teachers also, and to be to those PLCs, you know, and there's rituals and routines that you can establish as a testing coordinator also. So that's one that I really need to be able to think about. Maybe that's something that we can talk to Shelly about, or Angela, as you're jumping in, or Isleta High School is already there, like maybe some of the things that they've done with a testing coordinator. There's roles for everybody that everybody can participate. It's just trying to find that uniqueness and make it yours, because Angela, your school is not going to look like Dr. Calzada's school, even the size, but your blended is going to be very different from her blended. But as long as you stay within the pillars and are doing those pillars, that's what's important. Like the pillars become your Bible and your standard. They're like your teaks for blended, and you can't dwell away from those. Okay. Anybody else? Thank you, Connie. I appreciate it. And I'm hoping that if I have the opportunity, that I will hopefully Parkland can become a blended learning campus. It's going to be very hard to go kind of backwards, right? Because you see a mentality and then you've built, and students are doing this, and then you go, but I've already, spoken to the teachers, and they started doing individual data conferences. So there's things in place, but like I said, you have to be able to first look at those that are voluntary. The one thing I want to tell you too, guys, is invite all of your teachers to the Institute that's happening on the 21st, because once they see what other teachers are doing and presenting, because most of the presenters are teachers, and they're like, oh, damn. Oops, sorry, it's recorded. Oh, darn. Like, I can do that, or that's going to be like really helpful to me. That's going to make a huge difference. So I don't know if it's extra duty or whatever, but I would like really, I pushed all of my teachers to go to the Institute. We were the biggest group that were there in the first Institute, and that was the hook for most of my teachers once they saw it and once they learned about it, because they think it's just another thing. That's what teachers' mentality is it's just another thing. But once they attended the Institute and they saw the meaning and behind it, that was the hook. It wasn't me. It was hearing from other teachers. That's what made the difference. So I encourage you to invite them to the Institute. Stop sending me gang signs. You can't do that. I'm in the Northeast now, Rebecca. That'll get you in trouble. Just kidding.
No. Sorry.
Just kidding. It's all good. Yes, I have 5 minutes, so I will be glad to release you all early if nobody has any other questions. And guys, please feel free to call on me if you need anything. Angela, I know we're down the street, but anybody, and Adriana too, anybody that you guys need anything, the first year is the hardest year. Please call on me if you all need anything.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Mrs. Boyd, for sharing your experience with blended learning and the knowledge that you've gained from blended learning. We really appreciate you taking this time to do this presentation, and thank you all for attending. We appreciate you being here. I hope that you walk away from this presentation with just a little bit more information, a little bit more knowledge that you can apply to your schools and in your classrooms. So we really thank you for participating and those great questions that help clarify for us.